America's two great pastimes collide on this podcast. It is baseball and making money. From the dog days of summer through the October Classic, Greg Bases Peterson's going to be free swinging at the betting board as he tries to hit a grand slam for your bankroll. Now here is GP.
Happy Monday to one and all, and welcome into the Zuniga Tequila Studios for MLB Overtime Betting. Greg Peterson coming at you once again, and we've got a great show for you today. As many of you guys heard from my podcast, College Hoops Overtime Betting, Jeff Nadu always provides good info, and he's going to be joining me here on the MLB podcast quite a bit. He's going to be joining me in the second segment today. Going to break down a couple of games on today's slate, talk a little bit of general things that we're noticing throughout the season as well, so that's going to be fun. In the final segment, I give you a side and total on every game on the Las Vegas betting board and a little something I like to call touch 'em all. Now, please do note a couple of these games are currently off the board, but I'm going to give you everything that I can. And I'm going to give you everything I can in regards to your Twitter questions, as we got a couple of them, so let's get right to it.
So you have questions, and Greg may or may not have any insight into them, but let's dive into the Twitter mailbag.
This one comes in from Jeremy Sellers, who you can find on Twitter at JeremySellers16, at Junior_D1. When capping, what is your deciding factor when it comes to money line or run line? It's a couple of different things. For one, you have to take a look at the actual value that you're going to be getting in regards to the money line or the run line. There are some spots where you're going to be essentially getting even money on the money line, but that run line is like plus 175. That is great value right there. You're maximizing your value on that team. That's always big. And you obviously have to note, do you think the game is going to be a one-run game or not? Because there are some games like the Padres versus the Reds on Sunday that I thought could be very close, since I thought it was going to be low scoring. Took the Padres money line at more like minus 130 because I thought it was going to be close. They wound up winning that game by one run. Again, it is a little bit about home and road team as well. I actually feel a little better about laying the run line with the road team because you know that you're going to get a full 9 at-bats. And with the home team, if they're trailing in the ninth inning, a walk-off is going to be either a home run or the amount it takes to get one run greater. If there's the bases loaded and it would be a double, you're only going to get credit for that one run. So that is something that you really want to note in regards to money line versus run line. So good question there. And then we got another question in regards to bullpens. This comes to me by a gentleman by the name of Tug. You can follow him on Twitter at TugMoney41, and the O in money is actually a 0 at June_D1. Question for the MLB pod, and it is being asked on the MLB pod. What stats do you look at specifically for bullpens? And do you look at team stats or individual stats? Big thing, obviously, is ERA. That's obviously the first one that you got to look to. It's why the Nationals are such a bad bullpen and everything like that. You also have to take a look at the walks per 9 innings. And you should take a look at overall usage, because something that you'll note with the Washington Nationals is that even though they've got the worst ERA of any bullpen out there in the big leagues, they also are towards the bottom in regards to the amount of innings that they've been used. And then there are other bullpens that they're very average, but they have to come in for longer periods of time. If that bullpen ERA is higher than the ERA of the average starter on that team, that's something that you really want to take a look at. You also want to take a look at just how many home runs they're giving up in general. And you have to also take a look at just your own eyes, what teams they're playing against, because being able to have a shutout performance for 3 innings against the Detroit Tigers, not the same as being able to close the door for 4 or 5 innings against the Seattle Mariners. So it's a variety of different things. You have to take a look at ERA, base on balls, whip, hits, and obviously fielding as well. I cannot stress this enough. There are just some teams that are not giving their pitchers in general a lot of support. We noticed this with the White Sox. The Pirates are a prime example of this as well. There were so many unearned runs in that Pirates versus Cubs series. You want to be taking a look at that. So there are some times where the bullpens are giving up a lot of runs, but a lot of these runs are unearned. Those are the main things that I take a look at. And then in regards to individual pitchers, you want to see who's pitching day in and day out. We're noticing that Chaz Rowe of the Tampa Bay Rays is a guy that you can't rely upon. If Fernando Rodney went the day before for the Oakland A's, that should actually give you a little bit of stock up on the Oakland A's, because you figure that he's not going to pitch back-to-back days. But then if a guy like Josh Hader, who I know has been struggling and actually took the loss yesterday, but if he got used the day before, you got to downgrade the Brewers a little bit. So you do want to take a look at individuals and use essentially those same stats, but you want to be taking a look at the bullpen in general as well, because let's face it, we don't know exactly who's going to be coming in and day out. It's all situational. You can only make your best guess, but in making that best guess, you could essentially eliminate who's not going to be coming out of the bullpen, if that makes sense. So, great questions, guys, and now let's take a little bit of a look back at yesterday's results.
What happened yesterday? Let's go around the bases and find out.
It was a wild one out there in New York, but the Yankees were able to pull off a 7-6 win. For those of us that had the Yankees run line, that was a little bit brutal as they entered into the 8th inning with a 5-0 lead, and then the bullpen from there really peepeed it down. James Paxton was terrific in this game. He goes 6 innings, 12 strikeouts, gives up only 3 hits, but Adam Ottavino winds up giving up 3 runs along with Caleb Green. Just not a very good showing from either of these gentlemen. Adam Ottavino had been very good going into this game. Chad Green, not so much. But the hero in this one, Austin Romine, who in the 10th inning was able to have his RBI single to be able to win the game for the New York Yankees. And then you also do have to give a little bit of credit to the Kansas City Royals. It feels like their offense is starting to really erupt. Alex Gordon was able to go deep for his 4th home run of the year, and Hunter Dozier had a home run in the 6th. That was his 6th home run of the year. Meanwhile, for the New York Yankees, Clint Frazier continues to be spectacular. He had a 3 RBI dinger in this one. That was his 6th of the campaign. And then they were also able to get 3 hits out of Brett Gardner, who seems to be really righting the ship in regards to his batting average. The other team from New York, well, they didn't have such a good showing as Noah Syndergaard continues to get lit up. The St. Louis Cardinals were able to get a 6-4 win in this one. As I mentioned with Syndergaard, he gave up 6 runs, 4 of which were earned in 5 innings. He just doesn't look like his normal self. And it was a bunch of small ball from the St. Louis Cardinals as they didn't have a single home run in this one. But if you're looking for an encouraging sign with the New York Mets, it is the fact that Robbie Gesellman went 3 scoreless innings. Robinson Cano had his 3rd home run of the year, but he also left the game late in this one with a very weird injury. You want to note that. Likely not going to be in the lineup against the Philadelphia Phillies tonight, so keep that in mind. Noah Syndergaard, ironically enough, went deep for his 1st of the year. Michael Conforto had a home run, his 6th, and Pete Alonso had a home run, his 8th. All 4 of the Mets' runs were solo home runs, by the way. That is just a little bit unlucky, if you're going to be quite honest there. If you have 4 home runs in a game, you expect to have a little bit more than 4 runs, but in this one, it was Dakota Hudson being able to get the win despite giving up 3 long balls. In 5 innings pitch, he gave up 5 hits, 3 of which were home runs. He had 2 walks and 3 earned runs, and then from there, the bullpen was able to hold it together, though you do really have to be concerned about Andrew Miller. He gave up another run in this one, the only run the Cardinals bullpen gave up. He now has a 7.04 ERA, but Paul Goldschmidt seems to be getting things righted. He had 2 hits and 2 RBI in this one. His average is up to 247, so good sign there for the St. Louis Cardinals, and a good sign for the Detroit Tigers as they were able to knock off the Chicago White Sox by a count of 4-3. Ronaldo Lopez went 6 innings, gave up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned. Once again, that White Sox defense, as I mentioned before, not very good. Lurie Garcia committed an error in this one that allowed for an unearned run, and who knows what happens if that doesn't happen. But for the Detroit Tigers, they were able to get Jose Candelario going with a triple. Nick Castellanos also had a double. And then it was Gordon Beckham hitting his 3rd dinger of the year. Miguel Cabrera also had an RBI. And Daniel Norris winds up going 5 innings of scoreless baseball. He had 6 strikeouts. Very good start from him. Blaine Hardy out of the bullpen, though, he's a little bit of an issue. He gave up 3 runs in 1.1 innings. But from there, Shane Green and company were able to close the door, and they were able to get things done with the Detroit Tigers. They've got some very good bullpen arms and some not so good ones. To get back to that Twitter question from before, the Minnesota Twins were able to knock off the Baltimore Orioles by a count of 4-3. Wasn't quite as convincing as their Game 2 doubleheader win, but they were still able to pound out the runs in this one as they were able to rack up a total of 9 hits. It was a little bit interesting to see how this game played out because Kyle Gibson had a good start. He gave up 2 runs in 6 innings, did not issue a single walk. But in the 9th inning, Taylor Rogers, he had a very hairy save as he loaded up the bases and gave up a run before being able to get the final outs of the game. As for the Baltimore Orioles in this one, Jonathan Villar was able to come up clutch with 3 hits and 5 at-bats. He had that RBI in the 9th inning as well. It was on a double, so that was one thing that if you had the Minnesota Twins on the run line like I did, made you really sad. And Dylan Bundy actually had I guess you could call it a decent start. He went 6 innings. He gave up 4 runs, but only 2 of which were earned. For him, that's actually pretty good. And then from there, the Baltimore Orioles bullpen went 3 scoreless. So some good signs there if you're a fan of the Orioles. And if you're a fan of the Nationals, this was a very good sign. They wound up shutting out the Marlins by a count of 5-0 after Max Scherzer was unable to get the job done. Steven Strasburg looked terrific in this one. Went 8 innings, 11 strikeouts. Really, the only trouble he got in was first inning when he issued 2 walks, and then they were able to get Ryan Zimmerman going. He had 2 home runs in this one for his second and third of the campaign. Brian Dozier had his 3rd dinger of the year. As for the Miami Marlins, Trevor Richards just did not have his best start. He went 6.1 innings, gave up 3 runs, 2 of which were homers, and then from there, the bullpen of the Miami Marlins wound up giving up 2 more as Tyler Kinley wound up giving up a pair of home runs, but Wei-Yin Chen, in 2/10 of an inning, did not give up a run to lower his ERA to 16.43. Obviously a very good sign there, as I joke, of course, but for the Marlins, only 3 hits in this one. So Marlins bats, even though they erupted on Saturday, they continue to be ones that you've got to fade. You also have to take a look at the Giants and the Pirates games under for the most part, as the Pirates are all sorts of banged up, and they wound up losing to the Giants by a count of 3-2, and it was just one hit that really pushed the Giants over the top, and that was a 3-run Buster Posey home run in the 5th inning. His first of the year, and it was huge off of Chris Archer. Archer in this one wound up going 5 innings, gave up 3 runs, all on that one dinger. The Pirates were able to get 4 scoreless innings out of the bullpen, but for the San Francisco Giants, Derek Rodriguez continues to be a bet-on pitcher. 5.2 innings, gives up 4 runs. He did give up a home run, as supplying the power for the Pittsburgh Pirates on this day was Josh Bell. That was his 4th home run of the year, a 2-run shot, and all the runs that came off of home runs in this one, as neither team really able to play any small ball. And from there, the San Francisco Giants bullpen, which, oh, by the way, happens to currently have the best bullpen in the bigs now, was able to go 3.1 innings of scoreless baseball. Good signs for the Boston Red Sox as they wind up sweeping the Tampa Bay Rays. They get the win 4-3 in extra innings in this one, as David Price wound up not necessarily having his best start ever. He gave up 2 runs in 5 innings, but he had very good command as he had 10 strikeouts. And then from there, the bullpen of the Boston Red Sox gives up just 1 run in 6 innings. Matt Barnes was the guy that gave up the run. Ryan Brazier wound up having his 6th save of the year. Very good signs there. Mitch Moreland had a home run. That was his 7th of the year. But the real difference maker in this one was Christian Vasquez hitting his sac fly in the 11th inning to push the team over the top. And then for the Tampa Bay Rays, it was Jose Alvarado that gave this one up. He wound up giving up that run in the 11th inning. Tyler Glasnow had a decent start in this one. His ERA currently at 1.53, so he's been good this year, but 3 walks in 5.1 innings, including 2 runs allowed. Tommy Pham was able to hit a home run in this one, his 4th, but all in all, the Rays seem to be coming back down to earth a little bit, and so Milwaukee Brewers might be a little bit as well, as they wind up losing to the LA Dodgers by a count of 6-5. Cody Bellinger's home run in the 9th inning was the difference, as Jock Peterson also supplied 2 home runs. For Peterson, his 9th and 10th, and for Bellinger, his 11th, as the Dodgers are just hitting balls all over the yard, and a great start for Clayton Kershaw. He's a ace that you've got to once again be backing. It was a cheap price on the Dodgers in this one. They were only laying right around 125-ish for much of the day. Obviously, it ranged up and down depending on when you got the number, but 6 innings pitched, gave up 2 runs. He did have 4 walks. That's something that you got to note, but in this one, it was Pedro Baez and Kenley Jansen that wound up giving up 3 runs, as Eric Thames in the 8th inning hit a 3-run dinger to make the count 5-5. The Dodgers were in a lot of command before then, and Lorenzo Cain was also able to hit a home run. That for the year is his 3rd, but for the Milwaukee Brewers, of all the people to give it up, Josh Hader. He took 2 losses in this series. That's something that you got to know, because you can't think that that's going to be happening too much. And then Brandon Woodruff had a little bit of a rough start in this one. He gave up the other 5 runs that the LA Dodgers were able to score in this one, as he gave up the dingers to Jock Peterson in the early innings. So the starting pitching of the Milwaukee Brewers continues to be lackadaisical, but the starting pitching of the Chicago Cubs actually surprisingly good against the Arizona Diamondbacks on Sunday, as Tyler Chatwood delivered 6 scoreless innings as the Cubs knock off the Arizona Diamondbacks by a count of 2-1. Runs were at a premium in this game, as the Arizona Diamondbacks only mustered 3 hits. Gerard Dyson's home run in the 9th inning was the lone run that the Diamondbacks were able to scratch across, his 3rd of the year. And Anthony Rizzo was able to come alive with the bat. He had 2 hits, including a double in this one. He's very nearly back to 200. And then for the Chicago Cubs, a plethora of guys that came in to be able to hold down this win. Pedro Strop wound up giving up that dinger, but Steve Cishek, Brandon Kinsler, and Kyle Ryan were all able to deliver some scoreless action from out there in the bullpen. And as I mentioned with Chatwood, 6 innings of no-run baseball and only gave up 2 hits. You've got to be very encouraged if you're a Chicago Cubs fan, as this team continues to right the ship after a 1-6 start. They have now won 9 of their last 13 games. And if you're a fan of the Rangers, you got the win on Sunday, but it really made you sweat. At one point, the Texas Rangers were up 10-1. The bullpen nearly choked it away as the Houston Astros in the late innings were playing home run derby. Michael Brantley hit his 3rd home run of the year. Josh Reddick, his 2nd of the campaign. George Springer, his 7th home run of the year. Carlos Correa, his 3rd of the year. And then Alex Bregman went deep for his 4th of the year. But fortunately, they were able to get to Colin McHugh. In 3.1 innings, he gives up 9 earned runs, 10 runs in total. From there, Felix Valdez gave up 1 run, and the bullpen of the Houston Astros were able to keep them alive. But for the Texas Rangers, they actually got a decent start out of Shelby Miller. In 5.1 innings, he gave up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned. That actually lowers his ERA to 7.63, so he continues to stay on the fade list. But Jose Leclerc in the 9th inning gave up 2 runs and wound up leaving with the bases loaded before Sean Kelly wound up closing the door. But he was not helped by Jeffrey Springs, who gave up 2 runs in 2/10 of an inning. You also had Brett Martin come in. He wound up having his ERA balloon to over 7 now, as he gave up 2 runs in that game. Jose Leclerc gave up 2 runs. He has a 7.88 ERA. It's just not going well for this Texas Rangers bullpen, but it is going well for Hunter Pence, who had his 2nd home run of the year. Luke Forsythe was able to deliver his 1st stinger of the year, as the Rangers in general were just doing a good job of being able to generate offense, as a lot of guys were able to find a way on base one way or another, which cannot be said for the Philadelphia Phillies, who wound up losing to the Colorado Rockies by a count of 4-1. Jared Eichhoff had a decent start in this one. He wound up giving up 4 runs in 6 innings, which actually isn't bad for Coors Field, 8 strikeouts. And then from there, they were able to get 2 scoreless innings out of the bullpen from Austin Davis. You have to be a little bit encouraged if you're a Phillies fan there, but the lone run of the game came off of a JT Realmuto RBI. And for the Colorado Rockies, they were able to get a very good start out of John Gray. 6 innings pitched, gave up just 1 hit, and it was Wade Davis that gave up 3 of the 5 hits that the Phillies were able to generate, including the lone earned run. Sean Oberg continues to be nails out of the bullpen as well. This is a Rockies bullpen that you really have to like. Carlos Estevez was able to deliver a scoreless inning as well. He's been a little bit of a problem spot for this team, and the Rockies were also able to overcome 3 errors as well. So you want to note that whenever you're judging teams that are good/bad out there in the field. If you were on the Seattle Mariners and the total, and you fired in that bet last night, you got a refund, actually, as it was supposed to be Jaime Barria who was starting for the LA Angels. It wound up being an opener of Hansel Robles before Barria came into the game. For those of us that fired these in last night/early Sunday morning, you got an Easter gift, because it wound up being the Angels winning this game by a count of 8-6. This is coming from a gentleman who had the under and the Seattle Mariners, while it was Barria that was the listed starter. Robles gave a scoreless inning, and Barria looked very good. 5 innings pitched, gave up 1 run, but then Nick Ramirez, he was not good in relief. He and Cody Allen wound up giving up a combined 5 runs as the Seattle Mariners were able to claw their way back in it, but the damage had already been done. For the Angels, Brandon Goodwin went deep for his 3rd home run of the year. Tommy La Stella, 2 home runs, his 5th and 6th of the campaign. And then they were able to get a little bit of an unexpected home run from Kevin Smith. The backup catcher wound up having his 1st home run of the year, so that was obviously a very good sign there. But for the Seattle Mariners, they wound up getting a D. Gordon home run in the 9th inning. That is his 2nd of the year. Mitch Haniger went deep for his 7th. And Tom Smith also provided a little bit of power, as he was able to hit a home run for his 2nd of the year. But Mike Leake got a little bit dinged up in 6 innings pitched. He wound up giving up 4 runs. And then the bullpen, which for the Mariners has not been very good, really gave it up. Sean Armstrong now has a 14.73 ERA. He gave up 2 runs in an inning, and then RJ Elenas wound up giving up a run in his inning of relief as well. He actually gave up 2 runs, only one of which was earned. His ERA, because of that outing, dropped to 20.25. So you want to note that. The Toronto Blue Jays wind up sweeping the Oakland A's. Speaking of surprising sweeps, they get the job done by a count of 5-4. How about the way the Toronto Blue Jays bats have been coming around, by the way? This is a team that couldn't did anything to save their lives about a week and a half ago. And now Justin Smoak is really raking. He had his 5th home run of the year. They wound up getting a 4-inning start out of Aaron Sanchez as he was only able to go a limited amount of time. It looks like he's going to be evaluated with an injury, but being able to come in and get the win for this team was Daniel Hudson. He wound up going 1.2 innings of relief, did not give up a single run as 3 of the 4 runs from this team were given up by Ryan Tapira. He now has an ERA of 16.2, but everyone else that entered the game for the Toronto Blue Jays had an ERA below 4.7. That is something that you really want to note. And for the Oakland A's, they were able to get an RBI out of Chris with a K. Davis, but Brett Anderson in this one only won 2.2 innings himself. His pitch count was only a 42, so you got to think that there's something wrong with him as well, which is so interesting. So the game that you thought you were betting on with the starting pitchers wound up not holding the form, but he wound up taking the loss as he gave up 2 runs in this one, and then it was just a mishmash of guys from there that wound up coming in and actually did a pretty good job. Joakim Soria, Blake Tryon, Liam Hendricks, Yasmero Petit all did a good job, but it was J.B. Wendelkirk that wound up giving up the 2 runs, including the 2-run home run that Justin Smoak hit. His ERA is now 4.30, so the Oakland A's, you gotta think their bullpen is going to be very, very tired heading into their game against the Texas Rangers on Monday. A team whose bullpen isn't going to be so tired is the San Diego Padres, as they were able to get a 4-3 win over the Cincinnati Reds. Joey Lucchesi with a solid start, 5.2 innings, winds up giving up 1 run. The bullpen wasn't necessarily great in this one, as Brad Wiak and Craig Stamen both wound up giving up a run, but Yates was able to close the door and get the save for the team, and Austin Hedges really was the difference maker for the San Diego Padres. In this one, he was able to hit a home run that got the offense ignited for the San Diego Padres. Will Myers was able to have a 2 RBI double of his own. He's now hitting above 300 for the team. And then for the Cincinnati Reds, Tyler Mahle actually didn't look overly bad in this one, I guess you could say. 6 innings pitch. He wound up giving up 4 runs. He had 9 strikeouts, but it wasn't necessarily what they needed, as the bullpen of the Reds continues to be good. They give 2 innings of solid relief, but this is a Cincinnati Reds team that continues to not hit well in regards to average. Eugenio Suarez had a home run for his 5th of the year, and Kyle Farmer also went deep for his 3rd home run of the year. But other than a Jose Iglesias infield single, they weren't able to generate any offense from there. That's just a problem with the Reds right now. They're needing home runs to generate nearly all their offense, and the Atlanta Braves, they're generating offense in a whole variety of ways, as they just completely pound the Cleveland Indians by a count of 11-5. Josh Donaldson had a pair of home runs in this one, his 3rd and 4th of the season, as it was him being able to give the team 4 RBI. Freddie Freeman had 2 RBI. Nick Markakis, Brian McCann, Ozzie Albies all at least had 1 RBI apiece, including Inciarte chipping in an RBI himself. Shane Bieber had just a wretched start. He gives up 7 runs, 5 of which were earned, only makes it 2.1 innings, and then from there, a bullpen that was not very good for the Cleveland Indians on Saturday reared its ugly head again. Cody Anderson winds up giving up 2 runs in 2.2 innings. They didn't get much help from Daniel Otero, who also gave up a run. And then Tyler Olson wound up adding a little bit of fuel to the fire as he gave up a run in his 0.2 of an inning as well. If you're looking for a good sign for the Indians, though, it is the fact that Francisco Lindor, who just recently came off the bench, was able to hit his 1st home run of the season. And Roberto Perez was able to go deep as well for his 2nd dinger of the year. Gotta feel like better days are ahead for the Cleveland Indians, as now Francisco Lindor is back in the lineup along with Carlos Gonzalez and Jason Kipnis. But obviously on this day, things did not go their way. But something that is going my way, having a great conversation with Jeff Nadu, aka the big man on campus. And that is up next right here on MLB Overtime Betting.
Greg is going to the bullpen as he makes a call to the Azuña hotline.
And we're back here on MLB Overtime Betting. Greg Peterson broadcasting from the Azuña Tequila Studios out here in beautiful Las Vegas. For those of you that listen to the flagship show of this fine podcast network, College Hoops Overtime Betting, you know this man as he used to join me every Saturday on the podcast. Now he's going to be joining me a lot to talk some baseball. You can follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadu. It is the big man on campus, Jeff Nadu. And my friend, we are doing this on Easter Sunday, so it's going to be a little bit late by the time it gets out to the good people out there at home, but happy Easter to you.
Same to you, Greg. Thanks for having me as always.
Great to have you on, and I know that it has been a really wild year these first 3 or so weeks of the season. What's been the biggest takeaway for you? Because what I've noticed is that fading a lot of these aces, like your Jacob deGroms, your Max Scherzers, all these guys, has been highly profitable.
Yeah, I think for me, the big surprise is how poor Boston's been. I mean, you really look at really up and down, whether you just kind of zero in on standings. I mean, this team's 9-13. They're already 5 games back. Look at their pitching. This pitching staff, second worst in the major leagues, Greg. Their bullpen's been bad. They're pushing an ERA of almost 6 as a club. You look at, kind of offensively. They're average. Not necessarily even average. They're below average. I mean, they're 20th in runs scored. They just really haven't done good at really anything. Pitching's been a mess. They're not hitting consistently, only hitting 233 as a team. Now, we're not even through April yet, but you start to see some of their aces get touched up a little bit. You look at a guy like Chris Sale. He's had a ton of issues. He's going to go obviously today, but you look at his ERA up close to 9, 0-4 on the season. He's been talking about it, calling it downright embarrassing. This has been a weird season so far for the Red Sox. A team like the Mariners, obviously playing well, they've kind of tailed off a little bit. What's been weird about the Mariners, Greg, is they're 11-2 on the road, but just 5-7 at home. So that's been kind of interesting. They've kind of been really road warriors. But for me, the big story is definitely Boston so far.
I do agree with you there. And on Monday, you mentioned Chris Sale. He's going to be going up against Matthew Boyd, who's actually been pretty good for the Detroit Tigers. And right now, I'm seeing the Tigers as anywhere between a plus 190 and $2 favorite. This might not be a game that you have a whole heck of a lot on, but just looking at it from my view, this is a spot where you got to take the Tigers or pass. I don't know how you can lay more than $2 with Chris Sale and the Red Sox right now.
Yeah, the prices really haven't been affected too much. I will say this. This looks like a good spot to maybe grab Sale, maybe laying, a run line or something, or a first 5 -1/2. The problem with this game is you're at home, so you're not going to get 9 at-bats. This looks like a good lineup for Chris Sale to have some success against. No one, outside of Miggy Cabrera and Nick Castellanos, no real experience. Castellanos has really struggled against Sale in his career. Miguel Cabrera is just average. This is probably a lineup. You look at overall, I mean, Detroit's only hitting about 235. They're only scoring about 3 runs a game. I think this is a real good spot to maybe kind of jump on Chris Sale and think that he can do some good things. When you start to hear quotes like him calling things flat out embarrassing and then that kind of stuff, I have some interest. And with limited success against Chris Sale, I think this is probably a good spot to maybe back him. And, maybe an under be worth a look here, Greg. I mean, Matthew Boyd's actually been terrific. You look at him, I think he's top 5 in the major leagues in FIP and tied in strikeouts for the league lead. So, everything has been good for Matt Boyd with 2 lineups that have issues right now. And, a guy in Sale I think can bounce back. I think this under looks real interesting.
Yep, total is currently at 8.5. I can tell you right now, as long as I'm not laying a significant amount of juice, I'm going to be on this total under. As Jeff Nadu joining me right here on MLB Overtime Betting. And you actually oversold the Tigers. They're hitting 218 as a team this year. They have not been very good. And speaking of teams that, their lineup's currently not too great. How about the Pittsburgh Pirates? They're going to be playing host to the Arizona Diamondbacks on Monday. We're seeing the Pirates as right around a minus 140 favorite. They were able to get the job done on Saturday against the Giants in a rain-shortened game, but they were only able to generate 2 runs yesterday against the San Francisco Giants. What do you make out of this one? Because this is one that's very tough with the Pirates being so banged up and Zach Godley being, Zach Godley.
Yeah, he's been pretty godly bad, really, if you look at kind of everything.
Yep.
I mean, Zach Godley, it's been interesting because he's gotten progressively worse as his career went on. He's kind of been in and out of the major leagues, back to like 2015. But you look at in 16, it was not a good year for him. He's kind of struggled. But you look at 17, 3.37, the ERA, had some better advanced numbers. He got progressively worse last year. And you look at this year, he's having major trouble. When your xFIP and FIP are up above 5, you have some issues. This is also a team in Arizona. We know that they can hit, but all year I think they're going to be a great over team with their just inability to get anyone out. You look at on the other side, though, you got a Pittsburgh team at home here. They are 12-7. What's really been working for them is pitching. You look at how good Joe Musgrove's been. It's really been kind of amazing how good Joe Musgrove's been. You look at this club as a whole, number 1 in the major leagues in team earned run average. They're only allowing, opponents, their ERA is only 2.52. They've been really terrific, really, every way you look at it. Their closer's terrific, good bullpen. You got to wonder how long this will last for Musgrove. You look at some of his, advanced numbers. They're kind of a bit higher, but you look at his K rate, it's solid, pretty good everything in metric wise. I'm not a big fan of laying really anything above 130 in baseball. I just try to find other ways to do it. But with being at home here, with Musgrove's continued terrific pitching, I mean, you look at Greg, his whip, he's allowing like under 0.75, per inning. That's pretty good, as we know. You want to whip around 1. I mean, he's much below that. I like what I'm seeing out of Musgrove. I'll kind of not overthink this one. While it is a good lineup coming in, Godley has just been horrific, and I don't trust this bullpen at all. I think at this point, get on this one early. I got a feeling this will probably move on up.
Yeah, this is a really interesting game, and this is one where I almost think that you have to correlate the plays. If you like the Pirates, you're probably going to be taking a look at an under because Joe Musgrove 1-1 so far this year, 0.81 ERA as the Pirates defense has actually let down some of their pitching this year. We saw that in the game against the Cubs about a week or two ago. And then with the Arizona Diamondbacks, you got to think that if they're going to be able to win this game, they're going to have to do it with offense because Zach Godley, you mentioned him, 6.26 ERA so far this year. Do you ever look at that in baseball just because I feel like you're going to get a total that's going to go over with the Diamondbacks and you're going to get a total that goes under if the Pirates win? That's just the way that I evaluate this game personally.
Yeah, I think correlation's obviously interesting really in any sport you look at. You know me, I'm kind of a guy that I don't like to have a ton of plays and I just try to, limit myself on how many plays I put out. I'm either really kind of just go what makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I think in baseball you always have that kind of that, if you feel like there's going to be a great offensive game, you got a feeling that there's going to be some runs and you're feeling good about your team. I mean, sometimes you do the old trifecta. You take the team, the over and then the team total over. You could trifecta some of these and have some real success. But, I try to again limit, how many plays I'm putting out there. But yeah, I think in this case it would definitely work. I mean, you have to figure if Arizona's winning, obviously they're going to be able to hit Musgrove. You got to figure the Pirates will be able to hit Godley. So, yeah, I think that makes sense. You have to figure the other way it makes sense as well.
Absolutely. We got Jeff Nadu, a.k.a. the big man on campus, joining me right here on MLB Overtime Betting. And then another game that I think is really interesting is the Texas Rangers going on the road to face off against the Oakland A's. We saw the Rangers very nearly blow a 10-1 lead against the Houston Astros. They were able to cling on to dear life, but they've actually been one of the most profitable teams out there in baseball so far this year. And then with the Oakland A's, well, they have been struggling so far this year. They wind up getting swept by the Toronto Blue Jays at home. They've obviously got, first with the K. Davis, he's been able to rake with 10 home runs so far this year. But you take a look at the pitching matchup, Mike Minor versus Chris Bassett, who's making his first start of the year. This just looks like a spot where Texas should be the favorite, but instead they're a plus 108 underdog. Am I missing something here? Because I like the Rangers here.
Yeah, I kind of feel like you're missing something here. But again, I'm just still not willing to really trust Mike Minor. I don't know. I mean, I know he's been really good and, his ERA has been fantastic. And, you got to figure at some point he's probably going to get traded. I know the Phillies are interested and he's kind of putting on some trade starts here. But you look at his numbers. I think long term, again, not sustainable for Mike Minor to pitch this well. But I do kind of like to ride the trends with teams and with pitchers. If it's not broke, don't fix him. Mike Minor's been very good. You're getting an Oakland team that's, as usual, just a 500 team. They have some interesting players. You obviously saw the catch Ramon Laureano had, and you see some of the, Chris Davis. They can hit the baseball out of the park. But I actually like what I'm seeing out of Texas a little bit. I mean, Joey Gallo's been very good. He's going to hit a lot of home runs this year. These guys, this team has pop, and with the way Mike Minor's pitching, I will say this, Greg, if I'm going to get involved with this game, I really have little interest in betting this from a full game perspective. I've learned over the years with Texas to just kind of avoid this group like the plague late in games. You look at that not being any different here. I mean, you look at against Houston when they won 11-10. I mean, the bullpen gave up a lot of runs. Look, when Sean Kelly's in your bullpen, you got to always worry. I would look to take Texas probably from a first five perspective, highlighting, Minor here. You like the way he's pitching. Chris Bassett coming off of kind of an injury. He's coming off the disabled list and making a season debut. A pretty good pitcher, though. Pretty good stroke to walk ratio in his rehab starts. He's looked solid, but I'm willing to think Mike Minor's the guy here, and I'll take a shot with him in the first five.
I think that it's really intriguing, and I think it's good that you bring that up because we all remember that the Rangers in a game against the A's last year, I believe, blew a 10-2 lead themselves. So this is a Rangers team that has a lot of experience with gas canning games. And I think it's just such a big reason why you have to be evaluating bullpens whenever you're taking these full games, because one thing that we know is that teams like the Angels have a very good bullpen. They're a bit trustworthy. The Tampa Bay Rays bullpen has been a little bit leakier in the past couple weeks, but all in all, they've been doing a pretty good job. I just feel like whenever you're betting baseball, it is so paramount to be looking at these bullpens, seeing who all pitched the previous day, who didn't pitch, and trying to use that in your handicapping.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if that's not important the way you handicap games, I think you're going to have trouble. You can't just blind bet a lot of this stuff. You got to kind of go with what pitchers are pitching well, and you can't just think because a guy's a certain name and he's been bad in the past that he's bad now, or things like that. But baseball's interesting, Greg. You know, you look at the old adage. You look at a team like Baltimore. They're going to lose 100 games this year, probably. Do you really just kind of adopt something where you say, you know what, I'm just going to bet against Baltimore all year? I think it's a winning proposition. I think baseball is kind of interesting with that because it is, you know, when you're bad, you're bad. I mean, you don't win and go 500. You know, it's not like college basketball where, you know, you can go 15 and 18 and you can somehow survive because maybe you can get into the tournament and, you know, by winning your conference, something like that. Once you get to that June or July mark and you're a Baltimore and you have 55 losses already, I've always kind of adopted that. I find things that kind of work. For instance, like Tampa Bay. The unders at Tropicana Field have been fantastic over the last few years. They just go under in that stadium. You know, lineup's good, not great. They have a good pitching staff right now. Finding these kind of trends where and just following them all year, I think if you bet on the Orioles, you'll make money. It's kind of how I look at it sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. You got to be betting a little bit more on value rather than game by game in baseball, in my opinion, as Jeff Nadu joining me right here on MLB Overtime Betting. And I do feel like out of all the sports out there, because we do college basketball and everything like that, baseball is the biggest grind just because there is 162 games. You have a chance to be able to get back even with a team if you lose a previous day. And it's one of those things where you can just have something really wacky go on. We both know in college basketball, obviously, if a team hits their threes, they can knock off anyone on any given day. And if you have a starting pitcher that has a rough outing, I feel like baseball can become the most unpredictable sport because you have a game that has a total of 9. It's 3-1 going into the 9th inning. And then all of a sudden that road team can just go off and hit a grand slam and just completely toast that total.
Yeah. I mean, baseball can be cruel, man. I mean, it really can. Saturday night, I mean, Cleveland, I think they were up 7-1 or 6-1.
I had the run line. I know all about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty ugly. I mean, how some of this all works, you know, with just the way, these teams. I mean, I feel like, Greg, if you just bet first fives, you can really kind of limit that kind of stuff. If a starter gets blown up, I mean, the likelihood of you winning late in the game is low anyway. So, I know bettors that kind of only bet first fives. I think, over the years, I can't count how many games I've lost, late in games. It's usually late where you lose, and those things are hard to stomach. If you have a guy like Steven Strasburg, he goes out and you take him a first five and, they don't score any runs for him or he gets blown up. You just kind of chalk it up. But it's hard to accept and swallow, Greg, when some of these guys out of nowhere come in and just, can't get anybody out. It's irritating. I'll tell you, Greg, I actually did a show on this one time, back when I had a regular show on SBR. We did a show about annoying things in sports, like from a betting perspective. Like, for instance, you look at one, like, is there anything, Greg, more irritating when you have guys on second and third with one out and they strike out? Is there anything more irritating than that? Move the runner, put the ball in play. It's just little things. And baseball is really number one and it's paramount with irritating things. Baseball can really grind you up and spit you out. That's why, like, I've always am happy that I do the kind of the limited plays kind of stuff where, I wet my whistle. Is it my best sport? No. I try to ground out a profit with dogs and run lines and things like that and live to see another day. I'll never say it's my favorite. I enjoy it. It's fun in the summer. Down at the shore or wherever you are, you got baseball on and you bet a game today. But I just try to not get beaten up too bad with it. I will say one thing, Greg, and this is something I want to point out to anyone out there that listening to you. Tampa's an interesting team. I talked about them with the unders. You look at with winning games, they're 14-8. All 14 of their wins have come by 2 or more runs. So you're starting to see some big numbers with Tampa. You start to see them laying, against Baltimore earlier this week, they're laying, 1-2, 1-2.1. They're laying bigger numbers. They did just get swept, but this is a team where I wouldn't have an issue with laying the run line. This team is covering run lines. As I said, all their wins have come by 2 or more runs.
They seem to be a team that is scoring in bunches. And Jeff, I would like to close it up with this. Where can the good people out there find you on social media and elsewhere? Because I know that you don't just do baseball this time of year, but you stay active with college basketball and all that's going on in the offseason there. You do some NBA and you do some soccer as well.
Yep, I do soccer. I'm messing with the NBA. I got the NFL draft coming up, which I'll have some shows for and things like that. You can find me on Twitter at Jeff Nadu, JFFNAD. You can also find me on YouTube. Just search BMOC.
Terrific. A big thanks to Jeff Nadu for joining me right here on MLB Overtime Betting. And up next, it is that time that I give you a side and total on every game on the Vegas betting board as we touch them all.
Hey, I'm Steve Heitner, the guy who uttered the famous phrase, "That's gold." And that's the inspiration of my new podcast, That's Gold with Steve Heitner. We talk sports, sports betting, movies, comedy, food, drink, Vegas, music, movies, and more. 5 days a week. Did I say movies twice? Look, guys love it, whether they're hip or worried about breaking a hip. Find us on Apple and Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify and Stitcher. That's Gold with me, Steve Heitner.
Welcome back to MLB Overtime. Greg is throwing a gem, so yeah, he better not blow it.
And a big thanks to Jeff Nadu for joining me in the last segment as we are back here on MLB Overtime Betting, broadcasting from the Zuni Tequila Studios out here in Las Vegas. And now it is that time that I give you a side and total on every game on the Las Vegas betting board as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Note that any changes that are made to these plays going to be noted on my Twitter page at June_81. Today I've got quite a few of these plays locked in, but there are some that I'm still waiting on different numbers for and everything like that, and I'll be noting that as we go along, and as always, I'll be updating those plays on my Twitter as well. And we start with 951, 952 on the betting rotation. The Arizona Diamondbacks head to Pittsburgh to face off against the Pirates. Yarg. Joe Musgrove on the bump for the Pirates. Zach Godley goes for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Total in this game is 7.5 and is shaded under. Under is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. Over is anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. If you like the Diamondbacks, you're going to get anywhere between plus 123 and plus 130. If you want to lay it with the Buccos, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 138 and minus 140. Zach Godley is not very good, but at the same time, neither is this Pittsburgh Pirates roster right now. They've got so many guys on the injured list. Sterling Marte is now on the injured list after he had that collision with shortstop Eric Gonzalez, who was already filling in for Kevin Newman. Corey Dickerson is still injured. You've still got Gregory Polanco on the injured list. I mean, Adam Frazier has been dealing with some injuries as well. Lonnie Chisenhall is still out. Chad Kuhl, the pitcher, is going to be out for a very, very long time. So the list goes on and on and on of the Pirates' injuries. Meanwhile, for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Christian Walker's day-to-day, but past that, they've got nearly everyone healthy. Obviously, having Walker in the lineup in this one would be big, as he's hitting .353 with 6 home runs, 11 RBI. The Arizona Diamondbacks, we've noticed in recent days, have been a little bit feast or famine in their 3-game set against the Cubs. They wound up scoring a combined 8 runs in those 3 games, but 6 of which came in Game 2 of that set, so that is something that you want to note. And with the Arizona Diamondbacks, they do have a bunch of guys that are doing a good job of being able to get on base. You got like the Gerard Dyson at the top of the lineup has an OPP of .385. Adam Jones hitting just below 300. David Peralta hitting above .330. That's obviously been good. Ketel Marte is struggling in regards to his average along with Escobar, but what you have to like about Ketel Marte is that he has 15 RBI and 4 home runs so far this year. And for Pittsburgh, they're really getting a lot out of Josh Bell and Melky Cabrera. Josh Bell hitting above 300 with 4 home runs and 15 RBI. Meanwhile, Melky Cabrera hitting above 300 as well, but right now you're just using a mismatch of different players. Chad Ducker had to be the hero for the team on Saturday as he was able to hit his first career home run. He's currently their leadoff hitter. You just don't know what you're going to get out of Colin Moran on a day-to-day basis. You got J.B. Shuck that's getting starts for this team. I mean, oh man, Francisco Cervelli and Jung Kong are still hitting below $160. I just don't have a lot of faith in this Pittsburgh Pirates lineup. And I don't have much faith in Zach Godley either. He's 1-1 so far this year. He's allowed 10 walks in 23 innings. He's already allowed 4 dingers. Joe Musgrove has been terrific, by the way. He has a 1-1 record, but he has pitched much better than his numbers would indicate. He's been let down a little bit by his defense, as he's only given up 2 runs in his 4 total games, 3 starts so far this year, 4 walks in 22 and a third innings. Opponents are hitting just a $1.69 off of him, but I think the Arizona Diamondbacks are going to get to him. I think that the Pirates are going to be able to generate some contact off of Zach Godley as well. And much like we were talking about with Jeff Nadu, I think that this is a little bit of a correlated play here. Since I do think the Diamondbacks are going to be able to get to Joe Musgrove, I am on the over in this game, and I am on the Arizona Diamondbacks. I just think that they're going to be able to generate enough offense, and they're going to get to a bullpen that, for the Pirates, has been good so far this year, but does have its holes as well. Currently in wait-and-see mode on these numbers, but going to be playing the Diamondbacks and the over in this spot. 9:53, 9:54 on the betting rotation. The Philadelphia Phillies head to New York to face off against the Metropolitans. Steven Matz on the bump for the Mets. Meanwhile, Jake Arrieta goes for the Philadelphia Phillies. Total in this game is 7.5, and it is shaded way over. Over is anywhere between -120, -125. Under anywhere between even juice and minus and plus 105. Meanwhile, if you like the 8, the under is -120 there. The over is even juice. And this game is relatively a pick'em. If you like the Philadelphia Phillies, you're going to be getting anywhere between -108 and even money. Meanwhile, if you want to take a shot here on the Mets, you're going to be getting anywhere between -102 or -110. The favorite on this spot is actually flipping from book to book right now. It's very interesting. That is what you've got there, and we all remember how Steven Matz's last start went against the Philadelphia Phillies. He wound up giving up 8 runs, many of which were earned without recording a single out. I think that Steven Matz is going to fare a little bit better in this one. I don't think that's saying much, but I do think that the Phillies bats are going to be able to get things going after they were a little bit quiet in their series against Colorado. In that game on Friday, I believe they left 18 men on base. They just weren't able to get anything going on Sunday, but you still take a look up and down the lineup. You've got a murderer's row of hitters. Gene Segura hitting nearly .330. Maikel Franco's hitting .275, 6 home runs, 18 RBI at the bottom of the lineup. Bryce Harper has been coming on with the bats. He had 5 hits in that game on Friday. You still have guys like Rhys Hoskins. Roman Quinn is fresh off the injured list. You got to think that he's going to be able to give this team a boost. And then you've still got JT Realmuto and Knapp alternating at the catcher spot as well. So you've got a lot of good bats. Meanwhile, for the Mets, they've got a lot of guys that are hitting as well. And what we've noticed is that their bullpen, it just is not good. Now, that's not saying that the Philadelphia Phillies have a bunch of guys that are lights out. Sir Anthony Dominguez and company, they're doing a decent job, but with the Mets, there's just not a lot of guys you can trust them with. Chris Flexen having to give that start on Saturday leaves them a little bit tired, but they do have a lot of guys that are hitting as well. Pete Alonso now has 8 home runs, 19 RBI. He's hitting .325. We saw Robinson Cano go out with an injury yesterday. You got to figure that he's going to be out of the lineup, but it's not like Robinson Cano was really producing a whole lot for the New York Mets. This actually might be a little bit of an addition by subtraction because he was only hitting .235 for the year, wasn't really generating a lot of powers. I don't think he'll be missed as much as many people would think. Jeff McNeil is hitting .371. Travis d'Arnaud really needs to pick it up with the bat because he's been doing some catching for Wilson Ramos, obviously. You're going to want to see if Wilson Ramos is starting in this game because, oh man, he is not very good. And then you know that there are a couple other guys that are currently injured for this team as well. Todd Frazier still has yet to play this year for the New York Mets, but they've got more than enough with guys like Rosario and Brandon Nimmo being able to pick it up. But I do think that the Phillies are going to get a much better start in this one from Jake Arrieta than the Mets are going to out of Steven Matz. Matz has given up 4 home runs so far this year in his starts, and Jake Arrieta, 3-1, 2.25 ERA. He's been doing a good job of being able to limit things in regards to the hits that he's given up. He has issued 12 free passes in 28 innings. That's obviously a concern, but he does a good job of bending but not breaking. And I have a feeling that he's going to have better command in this game. This is a spot where you just have to look over with these two teams. I'm currently in wait-and-see mode because the -120 juice on 7.5 is a little bit too much. But I'm looking at the Phillies run line here. I've got a plus price of +165. I have wound up taking it and locking it in. So Phillies run line and the over the play here. We move on to a game that is currently off the board. It is the St. Louis Cardinals playing host to the Milwaukee Brewers. Just announced before I came on the broadcast, the Brewers did decide who their starter is going to be, which is why this game is currently off the board. Adrian Hauser, who got called up from AAA San Antonio the Missions, is going to be making his major league debut for the Milwaukee Brewers. Meanwhile, for the St. Louis Cardinals, it is Jack Flaherty. And that means that you've got to be taking a look at the over in this spot. Jack Flaherty has not necessarily been lights out for the St. Louis Cardinals this year. He actually doesn't have a bad record, but he's been getting touched up in a lot of his starts so far this season. Currently 1-1 with a 5 ERA, and it's not necessarily because he's issuing a lot of free passes, just 4 walks in his 18 innings, but he's given up 4 dingers. His whip is a 1.61. He just lends himself to way too much hard contact. And with the Milwaukee Brewers, what you know is that this team can hit. Christian Yelich hitting above 350. 13 home runs and 35 RBIs so far this year. Lorenzo Cain has been absolutely terrific at the top of the lineup. He's hitting .295 on-base percentage of .370. He does a great job of being able to hit. Yasmani Grandal hitting above .330. You've even gotten something out of Herman Perez at the second base position. Now, they do have a couple guys that are struggling. Jesus Aguilar, Orlando Arcia, Travis Shaw are all guys that are hitting below .225, and Ryan Braun himself hitting a .189. But Eric Thames hitting that 3-run pinch hit home run was absolutely huge for the Milwaukee Brewers yesterday. That's something that you got to think is going to be able to get this team online. And then they're able to bring in Ben Gamel as a little bit of a platoon outfielder, and he's able to do a good job of being able to get on base. Meanwhile, with the St. Louis Cardinals, they have been hitting the cover off the ball recently. They were able to hang 10 runs in their game on Saturday, in which Chris Flexen started for the New York Mets, and then they followed that up by getting to Noah Syndergaard for 6 runs yesterday. Paul Goldschmidt has really picked it up. He's got 8 home runs. He's now hitting .247. Things are trending upwards for him. Matt Carpenter has been a little bit cold, hitting for an average of just .213, but Yadier Molina now has his average up to .244. Dexter Fowler has been picking things up as well. Jose Martinez is white hot for this team. Baldy Young also hitting above .300 as well. This is a spot where I'm probably going to be taking a look at the St. Louis Cardinals run line, because with Adrian Hauser, he's got a lifetime record in the minors of 24-35 with a 4.23 ERA. Not necessarily a great quality there. He's actually been good in the minors this year. He's 1-0 with a 1.10 ERA, but he doesn't necessarily have an electric fastball. He's able to go deep-ish into games, and this isn't actually his major league debut because he's made some relief appearances for the Milwaukee Brewers. He did so quite a bit last year, but this is his first ever major league start, and I just think that this is a spot where you gotta fade him here. You just don't know how long he's gonna go. It means that the Milwaukee Brewers bullpen is going to be used, and it's going to be used heavily. Brandon Woodruff didn't necessarily give them the best start yesterday, so a lot of their arms are getting taxed because they are having to mix around with so many of the starters because they had to send Corbin Burns down to the minor leagues after he was just absolutely awful to begin the year. So this is a spot where I think the Cardinals are going to get to the Brewers, and so I'm probably going to be taking a look at the St. Louis Cardinals run line, and I'm probably going to be taking a look at an over as long as this game just doesn't have like some harebrained total of like 10 or something like that. So that's what I'm looking at currently in this spot. Like I said, currently no numbers up there on the board, so check back in the morning at @GUnit_81 for my official plays there. 9:57, 9:58 on the betting rotation. We've got another game that's off the board because for the Washington Nationals, they're going to be on the road against the Colorado Rockies, who have yet to decide a starter, and as of, I would say, 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific, they had yet to settle on a starter. Meanwhile, we know that with the Washington Nationals, it's going to be Jeremy Hellickson. Now, Bud Black did say a couple minutes ago, and I quote, Tyler Anderson is a good speculation for a starter. And if that is the case, you're probably going to be taking a look at this total over if it's less than 11. Jeremy Hellickson does a solid job as a starting pitcher, as so far this year he hasn't been giving up too many runs. He's 2-0, 2.63 ERA. He maybe gives out a couple more walks than you'd like. In 13.2 innings, he gives out 8 walks, but he doesn't go deep into games. We've noticed this with his starts because in 3 starts, he's went essentially 6 innings or fewer in every one of them. And what that means is that we're going to see a good helping of the Nationals bullpen. And the Nationals bullpen entering into the weekend had the worst ERA out there in the bigs. They don't have anyone that you can really trust for more than 1 inning. Doolittle at the end of games has actually been decent for this team. Past that, there is nobody on this Washington Nationals bullpen that you can trust. Meanwhile, with the Colorado Rockies, they're doing a good job of being able to hit. Trevor Story has the average up to a 271, 5 home runs, 14 RBI. Charlie Blackmon got exactly what he needed with 2 home runs in that series against the Philadelphia Phillies. Ryan McMahon is back in the lineup. Nolan Arenado at one point last week had 3 home runs in 3 straight games. He has been getting the job done with the bat. David Dahl is back in the lineup. He's hitting above 300. You've got a lot of guys for the Colorado Rockies that are able to hit. And then with Tyler Anderson, well, he's not necessarily the best arm either. Over the last 2 years, his home run rate has been a 1.5 or greater in every one of them. And then last year, he gave up 30 long balls in 32 starts. He was 7-9 with a 4.55 ERA. And in 2 starts so far this year, his ERA is 11. He's allowed 11 earned runs in 9 innings. He has been shelled. He has been a gas can. There's really nothing you can trust. And with the Washington Nationals, they seem to get their bats online. They were able to get a 5-0 win over the Miami Marlins on Sunday. Anthony Rendon has been one of the best hitters in the majors, hitting .371, 6 home runs, 18 RBI. Juan Soto has been struggling a little bit with the average, but you know that he still has the power. Adam Eaton at the top of the lineup has been doing a solid job of being able to get on base. .317 average, OBP of .391. Howie Kendrick hitting above .400. He's been a big addition ever since he's gotten back into the lineup. Now, Brian Dozier has been struggling at the bottom of the lineup, but even Kurt Suzuki at the catcher spot delivering a little bit of something as well. This is a spot where you just have to take a look, most likely at the Washington Nationals, unless if something unbeknownst to me pops up. I'm probably going to be taking a look at an over. Going to have official plays in the morning since obviously I'm currently trying to do this without a line, but I leans if it is Tyler Anderson that's going for the Rockies, going to be the Washington Nationals and going to be the over. 9:59, 9:60 on the betting rotation. The Chicago White Sox go to Baltimore to face off against the Orioles. Speaking of really bad starters, here we go with this matchup. On the bump for the Baltimore Orioles, our good buddy David Hess. And for the Chicago White Sox, this is a fun name to say, Manny Benuelos. The total on this game is 10, and it is shaded under. The under is anywhere between -110 and -120. The over is anywhere between even juice and -110. And Benuelos is currently the favorite in this game. If you want to lay it with the White Sox, anywhere between -118 and -120. If you want to take a shot on the Orioles, you're going to be getting anywhere between +105 and +110. Oh man, David Hess is a guy that you just cannot back. And with the Orioles bullpen being taxed so badly with that doubleheader the way that it was, and the way that the Orioles have a bottom 3 bullpen ERA out there in the big leagues, this is a spot where I actually have to take a look at the over. I typically don't like to take overs in games that have a total of 10 or greater, but I've already locked in the over on this game. And Dylan Hess, he is not very good. In 21 innings, he's only issued 5 walks, which is actually pretty good, but he's allowed himself to just get hit, and he's allowed himself to just get hit hard. He actually made his most recent start on Wednesday. He went 2 innings in that game. He wound up giving up 6 runs, did not record a single strikeout, just not too many redeeming qualities with him. He had a very good start when he took on the Toronto Blue Jays on April Fool's Day, April 1st, but past that, he's given up 3+ earned runs in every single start so far this year. And for the White Sox, they've got a team that's hitting quite well. Yohan Moncada hitting .317, 6 home runs, 18 RBI. Tim Anderson still has his average above 400. Jose Abreu has yet to find it with the bat. He's hitting below 200, and Yonder Alonso has also been struggling with this team, but both those guys have significant power, and you got to think that they're going to be able to find a way on base as well. And then you take a look at Eloy Jimenez. He's been on a little bit of a slump, but he's been doing some decent things with the bat. And you take a look at the outfield as well. They're getting some good production out of Ryan Cordell with Adam Engel and Daniel Polka struggling the way that they are. The fact that he's got 2 home runs and an average of .438 has really helped out the team. And with the Baltimore Orioles, their pitching stinks, but their offense is actually pretty good. Renato Nunez hitting .293, 5 home runs, 16 RBI. Trey Boom Mancini hitting for 6 home runs, 13 RBI. He is hitting above 300 this year as well. They've been getting something out of Dwight Smith Jr. He's been able to supply 5 home runs so far this year. That has been a big help for this team. Jonathan Villar at the top of the lineup has done a nice job of being able to get on base. And then you got Rio Ruiz, who seems to be starting to pick it up with the bat as well. And Jesus Sucre was able to get 2 hits against the Twins yesterday as well. This is a spot where I think that the White Sox, who actually have been showing some signs of improvement with the bullpen, going to be able to do a decent job in this game. I've just got no idea how far Benuelos is going to go in this game, just because he is making a spot start in this spot. He really hadn't pitched in 4 years before this year. So far this year, he's been more of a long reliever. He's got 10 walks. He's got 7 walks in 10.1 innings. He's done a good job of being able to limit the contact, but you can't think that he's going to go more than 4 innings. So I think the Orioles are probably going to score right around 3 or 4 runs, but I think that the White Sox are just going to light up Hess and the rest of that bullpen like a Christmas tree. So for that reason, I am taking a look at the White Sox run line. Plus 135 on the White Sox. I'm seeing some plus 130s as well, but locked in plus 135 personally. And I am on this total over. Both these plays all locked in as we move on to 961, 962 on the betting rotation. The Kansas City Royals hit the road to face off against the Tampa Bay Rays in a game that we currently have no line on. This is because the Tampa Bay Rays did not announce their starter until after their loss against the Boston Red Sox. They are going to be going with Yuni Chirinos as their starter against the Kansas City Royals. And Brad Keller is going to be going for the Kansas City Royals. This is a spot where if you're getting a good plus price with the Kansas City Royals, I would actually take a look at it. They had a nice rally yesterday against the New York Yankees. You got to feel like the offense is starting to come alive a little bit. And Brad Keller is a guy that I actually really like as a starter. He's 2-1 so far this year, 2.64 ERA. In his 4 starts, he's went 30 and a third innings, so he's actually been going deep into starts. He has a problem with the walks. 17 walks in 30 and 2/3 innings. Not very good, but he's been limiting the hard contact. Only 2 home runs so far this year. And then with Chirinos, he's been good himself. 3-0 with a 3.26 ERA. Does a great job of not putting men on that he doesn't need to. Just 4 walks this year in 19 and a third inning. But he doesn't go as deep as Brad Keller does, and you got to think that the Rays are going to have to use all their bullpen arms, and it's going to be all men on staff, and the Rays bullpen has actually been a little bit suspect recently. And then with the Kansas City Royals, you got a couple guys who I just mentioned are doing a good job of hitting. Alex Gordon so far this year, hitting .316, 4 home runs, 20 RBI. Hunter Dozier now hitting above 300. He's got 6 stingers, 11 RBI. You're not getting much in regards to average out of Ryan O'Hearn, but he's been able to go deep for this team quite a bit. It was also a big help that Jorge Soler was able to get some power generated during their series against the Yankees. He had a home run in that second game of the series. He went 0 for 5 yesterday, but you got to think that he's going to pick it up. Now you have guys like Chris Owings, Lucas Duda, and Martin Maldonado, all of which are hitting below 200, but Billy Hamilton has great wheels and has been doing a solid job of being able to get on base along with Whit Merrifield and Mondesi as well, so I really like those guys. And then when you take a look at the Tampa Bay Rays, they've been generating some offense themselves. Austin Meadows at the top of the lineup, hitting .351, 6 home runs, 19 RBI. Gotta like what he's doing. Kevin Kiermaier hitting just below 300. He's been hitting much better this year than he did last year. Last year he was right around a 200-ish hitter. Yandy Diaz is hitting just below 300. He's been able to give this team some power. Tommy Pham hitting nearly 300. He had his 4th home run of the year yesterday as well, so there are some good things that are going on for this Rays team, though it seems as though they're a little bit banged up. G-Man Choi is currently day-to-day. Austin Meadows, who I just mentioned, is actually now on the 10-day injured list. They're going to be without him for a little bit. That's obviously going to be a woe. So for that reason, I do think that there might be a lot of value here with the Kansas City Royals. They're going to be a pretty hefty plus price, and even though the Royals are 7-15 this year, they've lost a lot of those games by 1 run because in regards to if you bet them on the run line, Kansas City Royals actually 13-9 so far this year, and we just heard our man Jeff Nadu mention that every one of Tampa Bay's 14 wins have come by 2+ runs. Perhaps this is a spot where the Kansas City Royals get a great outing out of Brad Keller and they're able to hold them down. So for that reason, probably going to be taking a look at the Royals. Probably going to be taking a look at an under here as well because I do like the way that Brad Keller pitches, but you need to wait for a total on this one. If it's more around the neighborhood of 8, going to take it under. If it's 7, all bets are off there. So it's one of those wait and see things. My apologies, I just can't do a whole lot without a line. 963, 964 on the betting rotation. It is the Detroit Tigers on the road facing off against the Boston Red Sox. Chris Sale on the bump for the Red Sox. Meanwhile, Matthew Boyd goes for the Detroit Tigers. Total in this game is 8.5 and it's shaded both ways. Under is anywhere between -105 and -115. The same goes for the over, anywhere between -105 and -115. If you like the Tigers, you're getting a massive plus price, anywhere between +190 and $2. Want to lay it with the Red Sox, laying anywhere between -215 and -230. We talked about it in our last segment with Jeff Nadu. I just can't lay this price with Chris Sale right now. He has a massive dip in velocity, and we know that the Tigers are not hitting right now themselves. As a team, they have the fewest home runs in the big leagues with 11. They're hitting .218 as a squad, but you got to feel like Nico Goodrum is going to be able to turn it around at some point. He's been doing a good job of being able to hit for average. He's hitting .279. He just has been a little bit unlucky with regards to the power. He has only 2 home runs so far this year. Seems like Miguel Cabrera is starting to pick things up as well. In their game yesterday, he was able to have an RBI, so that was obviously good to see. Nick Castellanos doing a little bit of a better job for this team. You have noticed that Jose Candelario has been struggling. Jacoby Jones hitting just a $154, and Josh Harrison doing absolutely nothing at the top of the lineup. And with the Boston Red Sox, they haven't necessarily been flames with the bat either. Mitch Moreland has 7 home runs and 14 RBI, hitting .258, and JD Martinez is hitting .350, but Mookie Betts isn't what he was last year. Jackie Bradley Jr. at the bottom of the lineup, hitting below 200, and you've got quite a few guys that are currently injured for the Boston Red Sox. Currently finding themselves on the 10-day injured list is Dustin Pedroia, Brock Holt, and Eduardo Nunez. You got to think that Brock Holt is going to be back at some point, but he's a very critical platoon player that really hasn't played at all so far this year for the Boston Red Sox, so that has obviously been a woe for them. Andrew Benintendi seems to be coming around with the bat. He had a grand slam in their game 2 days ago. That was obviously big, and Rafael Devers and Xander Bogaerts doing a decent job in the middle of the lineup, but you're not getting much out of the second base spot between Chivas and, you're going to have fun with my pronunciation of this one, Tzu Wei Lin. I hope I pronounced that one correctly. Both these guys are generating nothing. Christian Vasquez and Leon at the catcher spot, just not giving this team a whole heck of a lot. So that is why I'm certainly going to be riding the under in this spot. I feel like this is the biggest no-brainer on the board, and you got to take the Tigers with the plus price. I just have no faith right now in Chris Sale. I'm going to be fading him until further notice. And with the Boston Red Sox, their bullpen has not been very good, and the Detroit Tigers actually have had a quite good bullpen so far this year. Their bullpen has been in the top 5 in regards to ERA for much of the year. They're hovering right around that area right now, and this is a spot where I think that they're going to be able to get another good start out of Matthew Boyd, and I think that they're going to be able to hold this total under, and they're going to be able to win a lower scoring game. So on the Tigers and on the under in the spot, have locked in both of those plays. We move on to 965, 966 on the betting rotation. It is the Houston Astros playing host to the Minnesota Twins. Jake Odorizzi taking the bump for the Twins. Meanwhile, for the Houston Astros, Brad Peacock is going to be towing the rubber. Total in this game is 9, and it is shaded a little bit to the under. Under is anywhere between -110 and -115. The over is anywhere between -105 and -110. If you like the Minnesota Twins, you're going to be getting a pretty big plus price, anywhere between +160 and +165. If you want to lay with the Houston Astros, anywhere between -175 and -190. We saw the Astros just get completely torched with regards to everyone in their pitching the past couple days, and I think that Brad Peacock is going to be able to right the ship a little bit in this one, and you're going to be dealing with a little bit of a tired bullpen, but the Twins are going to be a little bit tired with their bullpen as well. You got to think that they're going to want to see Jake Odorizzi give them a good start because they did have to play that doubleheader with the Baltimore Orioles on Saturday, and I do think that both starters will be able to give them a good performance, so I'm going to take this total under. When you take a look at Jake Odorizzi, he hasn't necessarily been doing a great job of being able to limit walks. In 17 innings so far this year, he's issued 10 walks, but he's given up just 1 home run in his start so far this year. Brad Peacock, meanwhile, he's done a great job with only 3 walks in 16 innings, but he does give up a little bit more hard contact. He's given up 2 dingers so far this year, and Eddie Rosario really came alive in that series against the Baltimore Orioles. He's now hitting .280 with 9 home runs, 20 RBI. Jorge Polanco is hitting .362. He was able to generate some power, and let's just be honest here. Everyone was going yard for the Minnesota Twins in that series against the Orioles. In that game on Saturday, the second of a doubleheader, they had 16 runs in that game. Nelson Cruz was able to hit a pair of home runs. They had Estadio really getting going with the bat as well. He had 2 RBI in their game on Sunday. Jonathan Scope was able to get on point with the bat. CJ Cron has upped his average to .268, so things going well there. And for the Houston Astros, their bats have been doing a great job for them. Jose Altuve hitting just below 300, 8 home runs, 17 RBI. Alex Bregman is now hitting above 300, and all up and down the roster for the Houston Astros, you've got a bunch of guys that are hitting quite well. Jake Marisnick hitting much better this year than he has in the past. He currently has an average right around 320. He's been doing a great job for this team. Robinson Chirinos has been picking it up with the bat. He's now hitting .271. Tony Kemp has been a little bit of a woe. He and Max Stassi both hitting below 160, but past that, everyone else is hitting for this team, including Michael Brantley and Josh Reddick, who are both hitting above 300 out there in the outfield. This is a spot where I do think that the Twins do have some value, though. I think that they're going to be able to get a good start out of Jake Odorizzi. Max Kepler is going to be out for this team, but past that, everyone is healthy for the Minnesota Twins. And as a team so far this year, they're hitting .274, and they've been sneaky good with their bullpen as well. So currently in wait-and-see mode as to what price I'm going to be able to get on the Twins and the under, but I think that Jake Odorizzi has himself a nice start here, and he's able to hand the Astros another loss, as it seems like they're slumping a little bit. 967, 968 on the betting rotation. The New York Yankees are in Los Angeles to face off against the Angels. It is Matt Harvey going for the Angels. Meanwhile, J.A. Hep hooray goes for the Yankees. It has been anything but hep hooray for them this year, by the way. As the Yankees currently a slight favorite, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 112 and minus 116 with the Yankees. If you like the Angels, you're going to be laying anywhere between minus 101 or getting a plus price of plus 106. This is a spot where I am on the Yankees and I have already locked this one in. The Angels were able to generate quite a bit of offense against the Seattle Mariners, but truth be told, Mariners pitching not necessarily as good as the Yankees. The Yankees actually have a pretty decent bullpen, though you wouldn't know it if you watched their game yesterday against the Kansas City Royals, as James Paxton handed them a big lead and they nearly gas-canned it. And what we know with the New York Yankees is that 6 of their 9 starters to begin the year are currently on the injured list. Aaron Judge is now on the injured list. Troy Tulowitzki, Didi Gregorius was injured beforehand. Miguel Andujar, Gary Sanchez. Need I go on? But what they still have is Clint Frazier, who's hitting .339. DJ LeMahieu has been doing a great job of stepping up for this team. He's hitting above 300. They've actually gotten something out of Matt Tauchman. He's been able to drive in a couple home runs for this team. Luke Voigt, not necessarily hitting for average, but he does a good job of being able to give this team a little bit of power. Austin Romine at the catcher spot had 3 hits and 3 RBI yesterday against the Kansas City Royals. Then when you take a look at the LA Angels, like I said, they did a very good job of being able to get their bats online against the Seattle Mariners, but this is still a team that's just completely dominated by Mike Trout and all that he's able to do. He's currently hitting .333. He leads the team in home runs at RBI. Justin Bour hitting .203. Peter Borges hitting $103. Zach Cozart $102. Tommy LaSalle is up to his average of .246. And Daniel Fletcher and Brandon Goodwin are both hitting 300-ish, and in the case of Brandon Goodwin, .346. He had his 3rd home run of the year yesterday, but you just feel like things are coming to the end for Albert Pujols. He was able to get a home run on Saturday, but he is not hitting the way that he used to, and Drelton Simmons seems to be really picking things up. But all in all, it's just tough to trust a team that has a leadoff hitter of Cole Calhoun that's hitting $184 as well, and Matt Harvey in his starts has just been almost as bad as J.A. Happ. You've got 2 gas cans on the mound. Matt Harvey, 0-2, 9.64 ERA. J.A. Happ, 0-2, 7.23 ERA. I do think that both these guys are going to have a little bit of a better outing. And with the Angels having a lack of hitting in their lineup and the Yankees just all sorts of banged up, I am actually going to take this game under. But Matt Harvey so far this year has allowed 4 home runs in 18.2 innings and has walked 8 guys. J.A. Happ, 6 home runs in 18.2 innings, but what I will say for J.A. Happ is that the ballpark out there in Los Angeles doesn't really give up the long balls that, say, Yankee Stadium does, so I think that that's actually going to play to his advantage, which is why I am going to ride the Yankees here, and I'm going to ride this total under. I think that both these starters get online a little bit, and I think the Yankees are going to be able to pull out this win, and we move on to the final game on the betting rotation. It is 969, 970. The Texas Rangers are in Oakland to face off against the A's. Mike Minor goes on the bump for the Texas Rangers. Meanwhile, Chris Bassett toes the rubber for the Oakland A's. Currently, we are noticing that the steam is coming in on the Oakland A's. If you like the A's, you're going to be getting anywhere between minus 115 and minus 124. I'm seeing a bunch of red because that means that the numbers just moved on my screen. Meanwhile, if you want to take a shot on the Rangers, you're probably best off waiting because you're going to get anywhere between plus 103 and plus 112. The total on this game is 8.5 and it's shaded both ways. The over is anywhere between minus 115 and minus 105, and ditto for the under, anywhere between minus 115 and minus 105. I do think that Mike Minor is going to be able to give this team a very nice start. He has been doing a great job so far this year for the Texas Rangers. He's 2-1 with an ERA right around 260. He's been a little bit more of a fly ball pitcher throughout his career, but that's actually going to play well in Oakland because he's going to be playing this game at night. The marine layer is going to be out, so that is going to allow some of those balls that might be a home run during the daytime to stay within the ballpark. And Chris Bassett himself, last year wasn't necessarily bad. He did a good job of being able to limit the walks. Guys weren't necessarily hitting him too hard. He had opponents hitting below 230. I just think that he's not going to be going very long in this game. And the Oakland A's bullpen has been quite taxed so far this year, and they've been doing a very bad job of being able to retain leads. We've seen guys like Fernando Rodney and Joaquim Soria just be guys that you can't trust. They've got guys like Tryon that do a very good job for them, but then you've got the gas can relievers as well. It's a very interesting mix with the Oakland A's bullpen, to say the least. And with the Texas Rangers, well, we saw their bullpen not do very well yesterday, but I do think that Mike Minor probably going to be able to give this team 7+ quality innings. In 4 starts so far this year, he's won 27.2 innings. He's allowed 8 walks in those 27.2 innings, which isn't too bad. He's been doing a great job with his whip under 1. Meanwhile, with the Texas Rangers, you've got some guys that are hitting quite well. Joey Gallo, 8 home runs, 22 RBI. He's trying to prove me wrong on the fact that he's a all-or-nothing player, as he's been doing a little bit of a better job of just reaching base in general. Sin-Shu Chu hitting .318 at the top of the lineup, on base percentage of .430. He's been terrific. Danny Santana hitting above .300. Elvis Andrus hitting .363. Hunter Pence was able to go yard for his second home run of the year. He had 3 RBI yesterday. He's hitting .281. Patrick Wisdom has been just completely awful with the bat, along with Jeff Mathis, but Delino DeShields Jr., despite his .218 average, has an on-base percentage of .358. He just finds a way on base. That's huge for him. And then when you take a look at the other side for the Oakland A's, they actually have some struggling bats. They just recently got swept by the Toronto Blue Jays. Chris Davis has been doing a great job with 10 home runs so far this year, but you've got a bunch of guys out there that they've been very hit or miss so far this year. Marcus Semien and Matt Chapman are both hitting above .300 towards the top of the lineup, but Robbie Grossman has seen his average dip to .230. Loreno out there in center field. He's a very good fielder, but he's only hitting .228 for the year. Jurickson Profar hitting $172. Kendrys Morales $179. And then Jeff Feagley has come back to earth with his average as well. And whenever Nick Humley's behind the plate, oh man, you're going to get no hitting there as he's hitting $125. So for that reason, I am all aboard the Texas Rangers, and the under in this spot. Have already locked in the under. Currently wait and see mode with the Rangers since the steam is coming in on the Oakland A's. And that will do it for a Monday edition of MLB Overtime Betting. A big thanks to my good buddy Jeff Nadu, aka the big man on campus, for joining me in the second segment. And if you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, you can subscribe on Apple iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you ever have a question for the podcast, feel free to tweet it in at @unit_81, and let's make today a fun, successful, and profitable one. And I'll chat at you guys again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.